Hello archers, it's Nocking here. Today we're looking at archery in Soulframe. Soulframe is an upcoming free-to-play action role-playing game brought to us by Digital Extremes. Yes, these are the creators of the famous Warframe, a well-received game that's loved by thousands for more than a decade. Soulframe is still in early access, or how DE calls it, Soulframepreludes. The developers are still experimenting and testing with the different systems and mechanics in the game, introducing some core changes every now and then, but they are also in good communication with the game community, and for what I've seen, they are indeed listening to the feedback from players. The game is currently available only on PC, but it will be released on consoles when ready. There are two ways to get your hands on the game. The first one is to buy the Founders Edition, which is like a supporter pack. It goes for around €30 and gives you some cosmetics as well as some in-game currency, but most importantly it gives you 2 additional invite codes to share with friends. That is again implying you have those. The other way to access Soulframepreludes is to join any of the dev streams that the developers do on their official Twitch channel. If you tune in and watch the stream for at least 30 minutes, you have an invitation code. The plot of Soulframe revolves around the invasion of an alien mechanically and technologically advanced faction called the Oath. They are invading the world of Auka. Through sound and music they manage to enslave most of the people. They are entrapping all kinds of wildlife and the divine entities of Auka, the Omen Beasts. The Oath use machines that push a chemical into the waters and the soil to spread the so-called corruption and to make it more suitable for them. They are essentially invading but also terraforming the whole planet to their liking. On the other hand, we have the Fae, which are ancient creatures dating back before the time of humans. All we know about them is that they are closely connected to nature and possess magical powers. In between, we have our main character, the Envoy. The Envoys are warriors that have a blue pact arm that gives them ancient powers called magics that belong to the ancient Fae. Our Envoy was once a conscript in the Oath, but in the beginning of the story we can see how the Envoy is being banished by the Oath for betraying them. Now we are trying to fight against the Oath to save the people, the nature and the wildlife from their corruption. There is a lot of speculation and discussion on the story and the different factions. For example, some theories say that as humanity was developing and advancing in technology, the Fae stepped in and erased their memories so that we go back to be more in touch with nature. Meanwhile, the Oath have been observing this from afar and fascinated by humanity's technology and machines, they started developing technology on their own, and as a sign of tribute they put human faces on their buildings and armor. There is a lot to be determined and confirmed as the game development progresses. For me, letting animals run free in the forest instead of being trapped, cleansing green pastures from the black corruption goo and destroying the machines that poison the water, all while kicking some ass is more than enough to get me on the hook. In terms of RPG elements, Soulframe features a pact system where depending on the chosen pact, your Fae arm gets different abilities. There are 11 pacts currently, although there are technically 8. The 3 main starting ones, Tetran, Oselda and Sirin, also have a wild version that looks more fancy to show players you have bought the Founders Pack and little higher virtue bonuses. These main pacts represent to some extent the standard warrior, mage and rogue classes respectively. Each pact has 3 active abilities which you can cast and 2 passive ones. 3 of the additional pacts are tied to the 3 Omen Beasts that we heal from the corruption, Bromias of the Bear, Garen Root of the Stag and Orengau of the She-Wolf Beast. The other 2 pacts are Mora's Hand after the Red Sun of Auka and the Oath Tempest, where the Envoy harnesses the voltaic powers of the Oath themselves. Each pact has a level up system granting you different upgrades when you earn enough XP. You can also reset all of these points at any time to experiment and try out different skills and builds. All of this of course is subject to change as the game develops. When it comes to armor, there are 3 stats in the game: physical defense, which reduces damage to melee and overall physical weapons, magic defense, defense against ranged, magic and lightning attacks, and stability, manages your resistance to stagger. Each enemy plus our envoy has a certain stagger bar that fills when taking damage, and once full, the staggered character is prevented from moving or attacking, becoming prone to finishers and powerful attacks. There are a few additional combat mechanics similar to stagger. You can block enemy melee attacks with any weapon. If you block them at just the right moment, you can parry. There is also a riposte move. You can also dodge enemy attacks with a dedicated control. Soulframe brings one very original combat move called Smite. Depending on your build and gear, you get a different chance of smite. Your enemy starts to glow, and with a combination of your spectral ability and a mouse click, you do a move that basically pulls and crushes their soul. That is, if the ult even have souls. There are certain skills that help you regain health or do additional damage when you perform a smite. All the pacts, abilities, weapons and armor are tied to the so-called virtues: courage, spirit and grace. The virtues are additional stats, and investing in different amounts of them increases or decreases the efficacy of the abilities, weapons and armor that are attuned to them. This further emphasizes the build crafting potential. In regards to weapons, there is a wide variety in Soulframe. The melee selection contains greatswords, long blades, polearms, short blades and shields. Players keen on magic powers can use a special type of weapon called magic, which is in more standard terms a mage staff. There are also ninja-like kunai called flyblades, and last but not least, the best weapon in the game and any game, or at least on this channel, the bow. Archery is a separate combat art in Soulframe, which only solidifies further that the game is committed to our favorite playstyle and hobby. Soulframe Preludes features 5 different types of bows. As any other weapon, each one has different damage stats, attunement to a different virtue and a smite chance percentage. The bow models are amazing. They range from a basic wooden bow through a metal and copper one designed by the old themselves to just absolute beauty. With a small exception that the Maestro bow makes a bird sound when shot, there are not much differences to how the different bows shoot or feel. It all boils down to the damage numbers and the different virtue attunements. So based on that we can rank them as follows. Of course, this all depends on what points you have in courage, spirit and grace. Another thing to mention is that each bow comes with a different model for the quiver and the arrows, which is a really nice touch. Right off the bat, if you choose the Searing Pact, you get the Thistle Bow as your starting weapon. As all the other weapons, you need to find a certain amount of fragments to craft a new weapon. In addition, you need to progress a little bit and unlock the Tuvalcane ancestor in your home base, because she is doing all the crafting. On top of that, you need to gather specific materials used in the crafting and wait for her for a certain amount of real time to complete your new weapon. The Maestro bow was bound to a limited time event that has now expired, and the Starling bow is tied to the Soulframe Founders Pack, which also gives you 1000 arcs, which is the in-game premium currency. You can use this currency to buy both the Maestro and the Blitzel bow from the in-game store. If you don't want to pay or just don't like items being behind a paywall, it's not the end of the world, since you can find and craft the Blitzel and the Juniper bow, so it's only the Maestro and the Starling that really require money. However, the difference in damage numbers between Juniper and the Starling bow is not so big, so you can get the second best bow in the game absolutely for free. The fragments for the Juniper are easily accessible and are located in the initial section of the map. Soulframe features a weapon modification system in the shape of totems and runes. The totems can drop from charming different wildlife animals with your abilities. You need to play a flute minigame and you get different totems as rewards. They have different categories and some of them can be attached to a bow. Each totem has offensive, defensive and utility bonuses. The runes provide additional bonuses as well. There are 2 runes applicable to bows. Alka's Breath, which provides bullet attraction, meaning that the affected enemy attracts any subsequent projectiles for a given time, dealing additional damage, and the Torrent, which summons an arrow hail upon activation. More on that later. The runes also provide an additional totem slot, making that 4 in total. An additional modification to the weapons are the so-called joineries. These can be found in different chests and dropped by different enemies, and can be added to a weapon to provide additional bonus stats. Joineries have 4 different quality tiers: rusted, tempered, polished and blessed. Each tier provides bigger bonuses, and the blessed one also can change the virtue attunement of your weapon. To use the joineries, you first need to hit the max rank of your weapon, which is 30. You do this by killing enemies with the said weapon or just having it equipped. And then you need to gather specific materials so that Volcane can reforge your weapon with the joinery of your choice. There are currently 2 joineries that can be applied to bows. The Gildor, which can provide an increase of 15 to 25 damage, minus 20 to minus 50 parry stability cost, and up to 4% lifesteal depending on the tier. There is also the Quicksilver joinery, which provides plus 10 to 20 damage, up to plus 20 increased weapon charge rate, and plus 25 headshot multiplier, again depending on the tier. The bows in Soulframe have 3 different attack types. You have quick shots ranging from just clicking the left mouse button to holding and drawing the arrow a little bit. These shots embed arrows into enemies and obstacles for a given period of time. The other main bow attack is the so-called charge shots. These shots take a bit more time since you fully draw the bow, they have a visual and sound indicator. They do more damage than the quick shots and also make any arrows still buried in an enemy or the ground explode if they are close to where the charge shot hits. This is also the main mechanic behind the last bow attack, the arrow hail. When you perform an arrow hail, the envoy shoots an arrow in the sky that splits in up to 35 arrows depending on a certain skill. The arrows fall into a circle that is indicated by a light glow and are buried into enemies, the ground and any obstacles similar to quick shots. The arrow hail is usually followed by a charge shot so that all buried arrows explode and do additional damage. There are also totems that provide specific bonuses to the arrow hail, like slowing down the enemies that are hit by it. You can also zoom or aim with the right mouse button, and if you're close to an enemy, you can block or parry their attacks even with the bow. There is also a jump shot. Now usually I'm not a fan of bullet time and slow motion because it gets boring really quickly and is too much of an advantage which we don't have in real life archery. But in Soulframe it's done in a very subtle way. Instead of slowing down time, it actually makes you glide a little bit while in the air and reduces the speed with which you fall vertically. This enables you to do some really cool looking and satisfying shots without slowing down the enemies and making you feel overpowered. Currently there is only one type of arrows in Soulframe, although the skill tree for the bow mentions 2 types of wood used for arrows, birchwood and camphorwood. These are represented by the quick and charge shots respectively. There is no visual difference to the actual arrows, their flight or behavior. The arrow drop-off in Soulframe is significant, it's always present even at short distances. It is minimized by charging your shots, but only at short range. It's easy to get used to, and also it makes sense from a visual perspective because the arrows that our envoy is shooting are actually massive and heavy. There is also significant travel time, once again due to the velocity of these heavy arrows. Of course, it depends on how much you draw the bow, and depending on the direction and the speed of your moving targets, you need to lead your shots. The arrow impact is really nice, there are great visual and sound effects for it. Hits are represented by a visual indicator, body shots make a thumping sound and you see an additional X on your crosshair. Headshots make a louder noise and have this flower-like animation to the crosshair. There is no arrow retrieval in Soulframe, we have an unlimited amount of arrows, which is good, because with the amount of enemies that come in groups and the number of shots it sometimes takes to bring them down, we either need a very big quiver or combat will be very difficult. Unfortunately, there is a bit of magic to the arrow hail, so that one arrow splits into tens, otherwise our whole quiver would be empty upon performing it. In terms of bow shooting, Soulframe is depicting an Asiatic style rather than the usual modern Mediterranean one. Here we have the arrow on the right side of the bow, which is more attuned to combat archery and martial arts, while the other one is more used in target and Olympic shooting. We cannot really see the fingers of the envoy to say for sure what type of draw is used, but overall it's refreshing to see a style different from Mediterranean. However, there is some work to be done on the bow drawing animation. As you see, the bowstring looks like it's being pulled not by the fingers of the envoy, but rather his palm. The animation even starts to glitch if you look down while holding the draw. I first noticed this when I got thrown in the air by a recent bug and I landed on a tree, so I had to aim down at the boss and it made this glitchy behavior even more apparent. But once again, the game is in early access, so minor issues like these would probably be fixed. There is shot cancelling in Soulframe, but I wish the developers either change it or allow the players to bind a different key for it, because currently it's tied to the aim down sights. This is a big issue, at least for me, but I've seen other people complain as well, because very often I tend to draw the bow, then decide to zoom a little bit to help my aim, and when I release the aim before the arrow, my shot gets cancelled, which is very annoying. I cannot really get used to it unless I never aim and only hip fire. This is a big problem in heated battle because I mostly do charge shots, which take more time, only to get my shot cancelled unwillingly. Soulframe is fully committed to the archer playstyle and class. We can get a bow as a starting weapon, the serum-packed description is all about archery, even though I think one of the other packs fits better with my playstyle. There is also the dedicated bow combat arts skill tree. It features different skills, some of which have more than one level, and each level requires from 1 to 4 skill points. Starting from Splinter, it allows to explode all buried arrows into a barrage of splinters. Barbed Point increases the amount of time arrows stay buried, and the different levels increase the duration. Camphor Arrow, the charge shots have higher stagger amount. We have Wolf's Eye that increases the chance of smite on charge shots. Brittle Arrow, quick shots deal more damage when splintered. Ready Mark, quicker charge shots after a perfect dodge. Fletching increases the range of the arrow hail. Rife Knocked increases the number of arrows in the hail up to 35. My Leg, this is a tribute to Skyrim's arrow to the knee, gives you a chance to knock down enemies if you shoot them in the leg. Salted Blade gives you a chance of smite when attacking down enemies. Riposte, if you attack after a parry, you perform a riposte that does a lot of damage, and Vaunt increases chance of smite on ripostes. This is a nice variety of additional archery skills, and the good news is you can unlock all of them with enough grinding. I have completed the story quests that are currently available in Soulframe Preludes. I haven't done all the smaller side quests, but they are repeatable and mostly used for farming materials or collecting fragments. I have killed the mini and the main bosses. There wasn't any moment in the game where I felt like the bow is not on par or is putting me at a disadvantage. It's a very satisfying experience with the occasional unintended shot cancelling which I still cannot get used to. So a fully blown archer playthrough is an absolute delight in Soulframe. However, the game is not without issues. There are some bugs here and there and some glitches. Some of the areas feel a bit empty. For example, some of the villages have small houses, but then there is nothing in them to loot or to investigate. I came across a tower that had multiple stories, but nothing on any floor whatsoever. So there are some bits to the game where it still needs to be polished and pushed to life. In the current version, Preludes 13, there are 7 story quests in total, which don't take much time to complete. But the gameplay mechanics are good, the game is absolutely beautiful, the music is awesome, even the launcher screen music gets me hyped every time. The RPG systems are fine in my opinion, but I'm not the type of player that will create a complicated Excel sheet and start calculating what is the best build and prove it mathematically. I lean more on the fun and adventurous side of things, so having a good feeling archery implementation that can be used all throughout the game is all that I need. On top of that, the story plot and the lore of Soulframe, even though it's mostly still to be uncovered, I think would even make an awesome TV series. So if you like to jump into an amazing forest environment with a cool story base, some gorgeous looking graphics, satisfying combat, nice RPG systems and of course awesome archery, definitely follow up on what Soulframe delivers and will bring us going into the future development and the official release. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please support the channel, and as always, stay on target and I'll catch you in the next one.